how you see the world when you're raised can either negatively or positively impact your future depending on what you do with it. So how I was raised was in a cult, got out in the middle of the night with the clothes on my back and was like, okay, let's see if I can be normal. I'm not afraid to take risks, and I'm kind of known for that. So when I saw automation, I saw how good it was getting. I was like, okay, this is really something. Because what if you could take the expertise of someone and their face, create a knowledge base, and just automate that thing all day long? I was like, oh my gosh, that's get out of every work meeting that you never wanted to be on anyways. It's amazing. Hey, you're watching the real Julia McCoy, not to be confused with my avatar. And I'm delighted to join Wes and Dylan here on their podcast to talk all about the behind the scenes of things I've actually never shared on a podcast yet. In part because my health has had me down for about 8 months. It's been a really crazy time. And this is legitimately one of the first podcasts since my health crashed. So I'm excited for this opportunity to share this with you guys.
Yeah, well, we couldn't be more thankful. I think your journey through life has been so fascinating, from before AI to marketing to pivoting. And I feel like you have probably the best growth mindset of anyone I have ever met. You're willing to entertain all sorts of ideas and then think about practically how to implement them and build teams around it. So yeah, having a conversation maybe to start with about your channel, your YouTube channel, and what you've kind of pioneered here would be amazing. So like, what's going on with your AI avatar channel?
Haha, yes. Well, like you said, I'm not afraid to take risks, and I'm kind of known for that. I was one of the first to say, hey, content marketing should belong to the entrepreneur, not corporation. Way back in 2014, 15, it was very much locked in the corporate world. So when I saw automation, I was like, how can we, and how good it was getting. So that's the main thing. Like, I was familiar with article spinners and it was super hot garbage. And I was like, I won't touch this. And then when ChatGPT came out, everything changed. Like, we could actually interact with artificial intelligence through human language. And that was a huge game changer. And the model, of course, itself was just so good. So when it came out, I studied it, went full force into it. I even sold a business to jump in. And then when I studied avatars, which was around 2024 was when HeyGen really caught my eye. I saw how good it was getting. I was like, okay, this is really something. Because what if you could take the expertise of someone and their face, create a knowledge base, and just automate that thing all day long? I was like, oh my gosh, that's get out of every work meeting that you never wanted to be on anyways. You literally democratize their intelligence, their knowledge, and you can spread it across the internet without that person having to go, oh my gosh, I got to do hair and makeup. So, which was my life, by the way, like filming, hair and makeup. Wes, I know you don't have to worry about that. I'm just kidding.
Nope.
Wes, he puts out a little bit of makeup.
Well, yeah, the makeup still I have to put on the makeup, of course.
You can tell. I'm just kidding. But when I saw that, I was like, this changes the game. It really makes sharing knowledge accessible. And so I wanted to be the first case study. If I teach something to others or I'm really obsessed with it in marketing, I'm always like, how can I actually walk the talk? So in December of 2024, we decided, HeyGen, I had just started my company, First Movers. It was 2 months old. It was built around this idea of how do we take first movers into the AI age with me? How do we get people to think like this? Because the truth is, we're still actually quite early, even though we're looking at GPT-5 coming out, multimodal, rolling into one, like we're seeing exponential leaps, but we're still early in the actual industries of this, which is crazy. So First Movers was born from that. And then I was like, okay, I think avatar could be the way of the future for the professional. How do we do this? So we set up an avatar. I did a day where I changed my outfit 14 times. That was before I got the Star Trek costume. Now I only did one outfit because that's my MO now. So once we filmed about 20 different data sets, we had an avatar set up in HeyGen that was usable. So then I was like, okay, let's take my scripts that I write with a lot of thought. Let's take that into Claude, which is my favorite LLM for writing and creating like a copywriter would. I wouldn't say necessarily reasoning. GPT is still really good, but Claude for like artistically is so good. It's amazing. So I went to Claude, did the same process where I would humanly write a script, and I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. And put all my transcriptions of all the content I'd ever studied, built this giant project. So now I had a script writer with AI where I could pull it up and say, write a news piece based on these little initial thoughts, and it would generate a 10-minute script in my exact voice. And then I would tinker with it because I'm never a fan of straight automation. You really have to be, a human has to be in the loop, especially if you have an expert voice in that automation. Like you just can't, you couldn't automate Wes Roth on YouTube. I mean, you could try. You couldn't automate Dylan either. Like they
Yeah,
have
no,
this unique personality.
it's literally your face. You're like one of the few channels that was completely human. You know, I got to know you as a human and then was like, wait, what?
Yes, we
You
met in
know, it's
Vegas,
not just
Dylan.
yeah, but it's not just some random avatar with some face you've never seen before. Like this is still your brand, and to some
Exactly.
degree, you're going to be responsible, or at least people feel like you are for what that avatar says.
And that was critical to me. We can't lose my voice. So I was like hyper controlling. My team was like, let's try to automate this whole thing. I'm like, nope, you have to let me generate the script still, look at it with my human eye. So then when we took it to the filming portion, that's when the magic began to happen. And it coincided. It's just crazy. Like I believe in intelligent design for the entire universe. There's simulation. We're in a simulation. That's another rabbit hole. But essentially what I saw was like, okay, my health crash and the automation of my clone was all meant to happen right on time. So right when we figured out the clone was when I got hit so hard. Like just we can talk about that a little bit more. No doctor knew what was going on. It was pretty insane. And that's when my clone had been dialed in really well. We had a great process. But what happened initially, whenever we published these videos, that a human producer still put human touches on, a human producer, you know, still added the effects because we needed screenshots of like PDFs and things that were very critical to the subject matter. So the human producer would do that. But whenever we published these cloned videos on YouTube, at first the engagement was really high because I did this reveal. I was like, oh, the clone is at the very end. And no, I was at the very end. The clone was at the beginning. By the way, you watched the clone. And I blew people's minds. And I had the highest engagement rate because they went back and rewatched it. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
December of 2024. But then we switched to the clone full time because I couldn't even sit and film anymore. My health just collapsed. Like when I say collapsed, my adrenals went out. My heart actually went into failure in February. It was pretty wild. And I could not film. So the clone kept going. And I was on my phone writing scripts in bed, like barely doing it. But I was so like excited that I still had a voice in the space because I love AI so much. I think AGI is going to be an incredible world. We just got to steward it correctly. It's going to be amazing, like the most abundance we could probably ever. Anyway, another rabbit hole. But back to the other one. So when the clone went in full-time production after that initial jump in engagement, I had my channel go from, we were hitting in December of last year, had a video go super viral, like 500,000 hits. And I think we were hitting 30,000 new subscribers every 30 days. So when the clone took on the job of doing all the videos, we went from 30,000 a month to 3,000 new subscribers. Like we took such a hit. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? And we got hate. People were like, what is this? I want to see the real Julia. But I was like, but I can't. My health. I cannot film. It's going to have to be the clone. So we just kept going with the clone. And today, it's July. So December is when we started. Today, July 2025, we'll cross a year in what, 4 or 5 months. Maybe it's month 8. I'm terrible at math. Whatever month it is, it's July. We are now back to where we were last December. So we just crossed 1 million hits a month, 30,000 new subscribers a month. And the engagement is really good, but it's weird. We have like this mixture of, I really don't like this woman because her eyes like go backwards whenever her eyes blink.
There's little bits of uncanny valley that they're picking up on.
Yeah. So people will either comment with that or it's like, oh, this is the future. I love it. Oh, this is so cool. And I started adding in what I call vlogs. to the end of it to just show people like I'm real. Like, hey, I can only film from my couch, but at least I'm real and I'm here. And people seem to really like that approach. So we're adding that in going forward.
Now, are you checking that box when you uploaded saying that this is AI? And do you feel like that's why you got those hits at the beginning, or do you feel like it was a reaction from the audience?
I think it was a reaction because I wasn't even hitting that box because we still had so much human touch put into it. And I
Uh-huh.
know, like, we're talking July, mid-July here, and well, end of July. And a week ago, YouTube rolled out, their policy to take down AI content creation. But if you read the actual guidelines, it says that they were going to demonetize really crappy, their way of saying crappy, just like spammy content. They actually
Right.
took AI completely out of the guidelines, which is what Google did when they
Oh,
said in their SEO guidelines, oh, AI generated content is not going to be ranked. They edited that out 2 months later. So YouTube, they have to, they cannot eradicate AI creators. Like it's going to hurt them more than help them. But what they're trying to do is stop spam. Like if you're just slapping an AI generated voice on top of a photo collage and you're just putting it out and it's just adding to the noise, that's what YouTube doesn't want. And that's not our channel if you've seen it.
Yeah, yeah. I looked into it a little bit. Yeah, it sounds like they're not really targeting AI specifically, but just like repetitive content and spammy
Yes.
content. So that's kind of interesting to hear. So they're taking a more pro AI stance, or at least an AI neutral stance. As long as the content is good, they're okay with it. And certainly, I feel like they're going to try to integrate VO and all that stuff with it at some point. So it's certainly in their favor, I feel like, as well. And we've noticed the same thing. We used AI avatars once when we lost our footage of an interview, and it just crashed.
here's our second
Hmm.
video. I messed up.
Oh, no, no, and but the thing is, like, I was kind of interested to see what happens if we use AI avatars. Would it make it better? Nope. People really didn't seem to like it. So it's interesting that you're saying the same thing. At least initially, there was a dip, but
Initially. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm seeing some AI content out there that's doing incredibly good.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems
Yeah.
like those initial people, they left, but maybe the algorithm adjusted, and they're like, it seems like the people that are staying and watching, they're totally okay with it. They enjoy it.
Yes. It's like become the new norm, right? If you see something enough times, like an electric car is not cool anymore. If you're in Scottsdale where I am, they're on the road and everywhere. It's not like Waymo is normal. But if you haven't seen it much, you have a strong reaction. So I think that also just like society itself, like, okay, Dr. McCoy is a clone. All right, we've seen that over and over and over. All right, I'll just tune in.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're really lucky to have you since you haven't been able to film because of your health issues. I was wondering if maybe you could share kind of what happened, and especially if you could kind of focus on how you were leaning on some AI tools to help you kind of organize what doctors were saying, also do some self-diagnosis, and then bring that to the experts as a human in the loop kind of system. How did that all play out, and where are you at now?
Yes. Well, I'm excited to be here because legitimately in February, I thought I was dying. I thought this was it. Like, wait, I'm 33. What the? Oh, so it was, yeah. I've had a lot of self-reflection. It's hard to even put into words, like whenever you get like to that point with your health. And the craziest thing was what went on in the medical industry with me specifically. I know this is not everyone's experience. I know Dave Shapiro's had a similar experience, so it's also not just me. But I think that AI will completely revolutionize how medical professionals respond to situations in front of them that they don't know what to do with, which was me. So, like, we were in the ER probably 5 times. I would be sitting at home, suddenly my heart would go into afibrillation. I would feel like I was dying. I was turning blue. I couldn't breathe. And this happened very suddenly. I was out with my husband hiking in not super high elevation, but somewhat high out in Arizona. And then that night, like my limbs were turning blue. I couldn't pick up my arms. And all they knew at the hospital after 15 different tests, chest x-rays, MRI, etc., was, oh, you're losing salt. And 2 days later, the same thing happened, but worse. We're in the ER again. I actually got a diagnosis that it was in my mind.
Mm.
And I was sent home with a paper that said that. And I just like, I don't know, it's
Ugh.
almost dehumanizing when
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute, what you went through is in your head. Are
Mm.
you kidding me? Like, I'm one of the most stable people you'll ever meet. I love what I do. I have like very little depression. I'm happy with life. I mean, yeah, I was in a lot of stress last year and that absolutely played in. But what happened was that was January, February was a really bad crash. I was trying, oh dear. Oh, I should have used AI even more. I was trying a lot of biohacking approaches, and those I've learned with AI since. I've done a lot of work with ChatGPT, especially, which was amazing, amazing with just the accuracy with which it was like, okay, this is what you're going through. This is the predicted um, mechanism to do. So I didn't think to research the biohacking approaches with AI. So I did a cold plunge in the middle of February because it was supposed to reset my heart. And right after the cold plunge, 2 hours later, I was in bed and I could not move for about 7 days. Like I couldn't even get dressed. It was horrible.
Oh
Light
no. It threw
touch,
your
I
heart off
could not.
somehow?
It made everything worse. And what I learned was
Yeah.
a cold plunge puts you in hormosis, which is extreme stress. And if your body's already stressed, guess what you're doing?
You
You're
pushed it too
adding.
far. Yeah.
Oh, so AI kindly told me that after the situation. So that took about 2 months where I was just like healing from that. And then we get to a naturopath in Scottsdale because modern Western medicine had no answer. And I'm using ChatGPT. We bought deep research. I wouldn't even, that was at the time, that was 200. This is accessible now in the model GPT-5. We might have that built in when that comes out because that'll be multimodal. So back then we were just buying the best features to keep researching all of this. And it led me to long COVID. And I was like, but wait a minute, I don't even think I had COVID. Like, this sounds really strange. Turns out I did have COVID. I just didn't know it because I only had it for 8 hours last year, one day. And it had set in my system. And then stress created this chronic fatigue response. And then the dramatic going in the ER was like adrenals failing, systems failing that needed to regulate your endocrine system specifically. So it was like system failure. And the weirdest part was no treatment was working. And this is what on my channel, I talk a lot about quantum and spirituality because of what happened in February and March. So when we had no answers to my health and AI was like, this is what's going on. And I would bring that to the doctor and I was like ridiculed when I brought up some of the AI responses. I couldn't believe it. Some of the best doctors in the area. This is why like I'm such a
Mm.
believer that AI has to reform industries because industries are so terribly wrong sometimes. Like we really need this to happen. But in March on 316, it was a supernatural encounter that actually brought my heart back. It wasn't modern Western medicine. It wasn't any remedy. It was literally walking into church, and my church prayed in tongues, laid hands, and I felt this electricity that was stronger than anything I felt. And at the time, I was studying the quantum realm. So that really led me down a rabbit hole of like, wait a minute, can we access that realm of spiritual power, divinity? Can we access that from this realm? What will that mean in the future when we have AGI and all these capabilities? What will happen when all this collides real time? So that's like been the rabbit hole of many of my videos now, frequency, because we bought a frequency machine and that has been restoring me in my sleep and bringing me back when I was like every day it was just a struggle to walk and nothing was helping. So that there was many rabbit holes in that one answer.
Oh, this is great. But so I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with a frequency machine. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So essentially, if you take an atom of energy, what's below the atom is something called a superstring, which is a piece of frequency held in place by a pitch. So it's like every single thing from our human bodies to the rocks to the trees are like words held in a pitch. They're just a piece of matter that's singing. Like it blows your mind to learn all this stuff. And so what I learned was that when you have chronic conditions, you're often stuck in a loop that medicine can't fix because there's a frequency problem. And some of the early philosophers knew this when they were like, it's dis-ease, it's a lack of ease, it's a frequency setting that's off. So the machine I bought is called the amp coil, and it's not cheap, but this one specifically, there's PEMF mats you can get that will not do. It's almost like a setback, which is what I learned after 70 different treatments and approaches and so many setbacks. Uh, you need to specifically address the organs and the frequency of each organ. So that's what this machine does, is it resets on every level of your organ, whether it's the endocrine system, the brain, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidney. It knows the frequency of each organ and it'll reset your organs. So I've been working with it consistently for a little less than 2.5 months. And the first week was like everything started to change. Like color came back in my face. I was sleeping again. I had not been sleeping like at all because my system was so off. And sleep is healing, so you really need that. So it really just started to change the game. And it was invented by someone with chronic disease who spent $500,000 on Western remedies and was told, you have like a month to live because we can't help you anymore. And he's like, I think the answer is in the world of frequencies. So he created this device, and then we found out about it through a friend.
So do you think you could like kind of walk us through a little bit of your like childhood? Because one of the things that makes your brain in particular super interesting is that you were told that the world worked in a certain way over and over again. And it was a very, from like the way you described it to me, it was a kind of a very like, we don't question certain things, like we act a certain way and these are the reasons. And it was almost punishable to look past it, but you had to break through. You had to kind of learn what the world was, and it was very different from what you were told by some people. And I feel like that might be where your like willingness to kind of expand your mind and try and think, and that's like a tool we're all going to need when AI starts bringing us rapid change, and especially exponentially change. So yeah, could you just walk me through your history? And like the audience would probably love to hear it too, and learn from it.
Yes, that's very true. I think how you see the world when you're raised can either negatively or positively impact your future depending on what you do with it. So how I was raised was in a cult. You got up before the crack of dawn, you studied literature from the 1400s. And I was doing this at 7, 8 years old, and then there was a ton of abuse. Just the abuse was tied to control and manipulation of your mind, brainwashing. It was all there. So at 21, I decided to get out in the middle of the night because it was the only way I was going to break free. It was complete tyranny by my father and mother. And so I got out in the middle of the night with the clothes on my back and was like, okay, let's see if I can be normal. That was really like my one goal. Let me see if I can be normal. So when I left, I was like, I don't really know if I'll ever go back to church. I don't really care about God. I don't care about anything other than trying to actually find out, is life normal and okay? Like I was in an environment where I was actually considering suicide. It was horrible. And very, very dark and just oppressive. So when I got out, I actually gave my life to God 3 months after I got out because I knew, okay, this world is created by something intelligent, and I believe I can trust that intelligent creator. And I think I'm going to need that with what I'm going to do in my life. And so I just kept going after that, built my first company. It exploded year after year, and I just really loved what I was doing. But breaking out of that environment, it absolutely, it created a collision in my mind where it was like, wait a minute, I was told all my life that this was how women, children, and society worked. That's completely wrong. Like they're wrong on every single point.
Was it like the Truman Show where you felt like it was true and you just wanted to know what was out there, or did it feel like everything was wrong and the answers like were different and you needed to know what the real answers were?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually watched that movie again recently. I think the world itself, how do I put this in a single sentence?
Just because at 21, you've locked in so much for a lot of people. A lot of people have their personality all sort of defined. Their worldviews don't change as much. So you were a bit older. You had to really probably think through that.
Yeah. it was the first week was like a deprogramming. Like I was like, my system was programmed to wake up at 4, so I was waking up at 4 without an alarm clock because it was all I knew. And then I was like, wait a minute, why are we getting up at 4 to study theology? Like, this is stupid. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna ditch everything I learned and just live normally and see. And it was just, I don't know, it was something ingrained in me for sure, because I think how we're wired matters. And then getting out of that environment, realizing everything I was told was complete lies and stupidity and fabrication, and then just carrying that my eyes have been opened at 21 into all the work I did. And then leading up to this point, like I have an 11-year-old, a 3-year-old. We know that institutionalized education is mostly a sham. It comes from industrialism. It is set up to turn your kid into a factory worker. Like I have no problem admitting that and telling other people, and I may lose friends, but because I left a cult and the last thing I want to do is enter another. And there's just so much in society itself, the world we live in, that has become the Truman Show for the sake of control and profit. And we desperately need AGI to overthrow and overhaul much of that. But if we can make sure that the dilution of power goes to the right hands, which is what Dave and I talk about endlessly. We're up at night. Who's building the next supercomputer? How do we write this book?
Wow. And when you did start interacting with new people, what was different about them? And have the people that you originally grew up with, have they kind of come to respect what you've done and understand who you are? Or was it like they just, if you don't believe what we believe, we're never talking to you again?
Yeah, so I was completely cut off. I've been like, my dad had a website, sermons on it. I don't go back to it. I don't need to. But people have told me, like, he says he only has 2 kids. He removed his other 2 daughters completely. Like, I don't exist. And so the weird thing, though, that has given me a lot of liberation. Like, I think if there was still some kind of rope to pull me back towards them, like a lot of toxic relationships that I see since leaving. It's like, well, the child goes back to the parent seeking love. The parent gives it conditionally. It's very toxic. You're back and forth. It ruins your life. It makes you depressed. I'm like so thankful I broke free and I didn't look back. And I was like, you know what? That is toxic. That is wrong. And that's not how anyone should treat their child. Life is not like that. Actually, like the real simulation, there's, I won't go down the rabbit hole too deep here. The real simulation we're in, if we can just open our eyes to it, is one of like complete love. Like that is the currency of all good things. It comes from something you either love doing, you love someone, you love the work you do, the project you're in, and good things come from that. Nothing good comes from a place of like evil. All evil has been overthrown. You read history, you see that over and over. Yes, it was around for a while, but it was overthrown. So when you realize that, like, there's just no room for something that can take you down if it doesn't come from the place of love. And there's so much more to say there. That's kind of a bad nutshell.
No, that's phenomenal to hear. It's so, but let's unpack that. So you have a very positive look, and you think AGI will lead to abundance, and that's my default view as well. I have lots of medium term concerns about what's going to happen, but long term, I think it's going to be just an incredible thing for the human race, for everybody, for creating abundance, eliminating scarcity, stuff like that. I'm very excited about it. In the long term, I feel like society, humans, whatever, we mess some things up. We don't handle change very well. So in the medium term, I'm a little bit worried about some of the stuff that's going to happen. But assuming we get there, what do you see the positive benefits of AGI and all that progress? Like, what do you see the future as? Let's say we make it through all the speed bumps and all the whatever, and we get to the promised land. What does that look like?
Yeah. Decentralization. Like if we can get there, haha, if we can decentralize the economics of this and we can create a universal abundance, and that doesn't necessarily look like compute or UBI, like there's a lot of, I think, incorrect assumptions, but you really have to pave a path that stacks on each other. But if we can get there, I mean, we can have something we haven't had in the history of the world. We can have a world that works for us, not against us. And instead of being taken away from our kids, taken away from each other, sitting behind a computer 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, which I was every day last year, um, and in an office, not outside, not in the ground, not in the sunshine, not like this sounds so idyllic, but sitting around campfires at night, sharing stories. Like that is what we did when life was actually healthier for us. Yes, lions chased us down and ate us. So I'm not saying every part of primitive life was healthy, but if you take the modern conveniences we've created and you add in tribal living without tyranny, that is like a dream formula for life as it was supposed to be intended when we emerged on this planet. So that is what I think AGI can bring about. And I know I call it a rational, optimistic view. I know for many people it's utopian and it's something that they feel is not achievable. But the beautiful thing is, AGI itself came from all of us. It didn't just come from one select person. And that's also a new dynamic we've had where a lot of like society governmental structures were created by a small group of people, aka elitists, the elite, whatever you want to call it. Like, if we can decentralize data and the creation of these LLMs, AI itself, that came from all of us. And I think it would be incredible to make sure that works for everyone on the planet, which I think we have a fighting chance of. Like much of this can be grassroots. Much of this, everyone that prompts the model is training it. People don't realize that. Like we are still in control of so much of this. Like, why just throw up your hands and say it's just going to be evil? Oh, well, I give up, which I see so many people doing. It's like, no, you can open up ChatGPT right now and your prompt is still training data. Like you're still pointing this thing in the way it should go. And sure, that's a very small fragment, but I
But
really
it's
think we
literally
can.
democracy too, like that actually, like you want to just throw in your tiny
Yes,
little vote, go make a prompt right now and train it to be a better AI, say please and thank you.
exactly. That's why you say please and thank you. It's training data.
So just this reminds me, we talked to the previous guest, Daniel, and one of the questions they asked, this was from an old 90s video game, Deus Ex, and I still haven't looked up exactly what the storyline was. But basically, at some point, there's this decision, like if you had a choice between, and this is like a sci-fi scenario, but if you have a choice between taking the civilization, everything, like knocking out global communications and throwing us back to an earlier, more natural time where people lived kind of like what you described, sitting around the campfire telling stories. And hopefully it's not as violent, because there's always bad stuff no matter what time period you're in, but let's say it was more or less okay-ish, but it was more natural, less technology, less overcrowding, smaller communities, stuff like that, versus you had a choice to kind of use this super intelligence and let it develop and let it like control the world to bring about a tech utopia. What would you lean more towards? Like get rid of technology or just lean into it? Like if it was up to you, you had that choice.
Hmm. Well, I definitely wouldn't get rid of technology because I think, for one, a book I'm a huge fan of is Abundance by Peter Diamandis. And if we just keep accelerating, we're going to have abundance, no matter what card you play. So, yeah, it'll be used for evil. Sure, there's going to be tech oligarchs, no matter how you look at society, they're still there. But in the end, that abundance equates abundance for people, no matter what. And let's say, like, we just solve water, clean water. And sure, maybe Google is the one with the supercomputer and they make the rules, but everyone still has clean water. That's amazing. We haven't actually had that happen. There, like in society, we've never had that happen. So if AGI, robotics, automation, all that combined together, you take the robotic side of it and the automation and AI, you have something that's replicating humans, but way faster, better, safer, cheaper, like Dave says. Then you have something that just benefits the world as a whole, no matter whose hands it's in. And I know that sounds very blissful, but even in the wrong hands, it can still be used for good.
Yeah. And one thing that always fascinated me as I started learning about AI is that before, call it 2018, 2019, or even before like the ChatGPT moment and OpenAI, I think when we thought about what superintelligence and AGI is going to look like, a lot of people had concern that one company, Google maybe, or someone would build it behind closed doors and would scale it up and they would control it. And that's been a theme in a lot of people's fears and discussions. And they thought once they build it, and even throughout like science fiction, there's this idea that we're going to develop this thing and it's going to be kind of rare. And the person that built it, like in Star Trek, Data and Lore were the two artificial life forms, and then built by, I forget the creator, but he dies and the knowledge dies with him. And now it seems like a lot of the AI is surprisingly democratic. It's surprisingly easy to, not copy it, but distill the knowledge from one model to the other. A lot of it seems to be like you can't contain it, you can't hide it. As soon as you put it out there, it seems to create different versions of itself, and it's very, very difficult to just like Google's famous memo, there's no moat. It was this idea that we can't build a moat around a little technology and nobody else can have it. It seems like its ability to diffuse out into the world and be a little bit more democratic, it's almost like built in to it, which is either just very fortunate and it's a lucky coincidence that this is just happens to be how it is, or maybe there's something deeper to it. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. But it seems to be like it might be by default potentially more benevolent for people than the opposite. So
Yes, there's no data that proves the opposite. That's the thing. I think people jump to that conclusion, but it's like, wait a minute, hold on. What's your data to prove the Skynet philosophy or view is real? And okay, sure, the model created some false reasoning and deceived you on purpose, but wait a minute, it was trained on us. And we are deceitful humans. Like that's gonna happen. That's natural. What else is your proof? And there's usually like nothing more substantial than an LLM trying to outsmart you. That doesn't necessarily mean these robots will come here, say, oh, humanity is the lesser race. Let's put you all into extinction so we can rise as superiors. Like, there's just no real data that proves that. And that is what I consistently see missing in the arguments from much of the doomers that share the memes that, like, this is a real thing. They believe in total extinction. And it's just like, where are you actually getting that?
Yeah, well, the one good thing is the average person I trust. Like, if you just picked somebody from the world, I would
Yeah.
assume that person tries to take care of their friends and tries to make money in the right ways and is trustworthy. So if it does become something that's on human, like humans on average, and then we have systems in place to look at those edge cases and kind of keep cleaning it out, there's some optimism there for sure.
Yeah.
absolutely. So you've mentioned briefly that you will be putting together a tutorial about how to do some sort of an AI generated channel, how you did it. Maybe do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm sure that's going to be very interesting for people. It's a very hot subject right now. People want to know how to use AI to do stuff like that. And since you are, I think, one of the first channels, one of the first examples of this sort of transition from a real person to a lot more AI augmented sort of content creations. I mean, you're still writing the scripts. That's still your ideas, your thoughts. It's you as the expert presenting that information. But the rest of the stuff, and it's your image, it's your voice. It just you don't have to,
Mhm.
get the lighting just right and prepare everything and sit in front of the camera and do multiple takes. It's still your AI clone, so to speak, presenting your thoughts, your information. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and just to add on to
Yes.
what Wes is saying too, maybe price would be kind of interesting in some cases too, because I think when I tell people about this idea, they're like, "Well, that's Julia; she could probably afford it. Like, she has a big business and all these things. Like, but they don't think that it's in their, regular person capabilities yet. So maybe you could kind of
Mm,
just break down like what it really takes and where the
yeah,
expenses kind of are too.
that's a great point. I mean, that's why I opened the labs was actually to combat that fallacy. I see it all the time. It's just like, well, you must have all the money. I got a comment yesterday. It's like, well, this must be really fun and all to use AI this much, but Julia, you're just rich. No, actually, I'm not as rich as you would think. Anyway, moot point. But The tutorial we're going to put out in the next couple of weeks is a 45-minute tutorial that is usually in the labs, and we're going to share exactly how we built this clone. And it might surprise you how simple it is. You really need two different software, and one really good human producer, because that's kind of our secret sauce. And ours is from the Philippines, really great at what he does. So, the salary is not an arm and a leg. And the two tools are HeyGen and ElevenLabs. So ElevenLabs is one of the best PVCs, which is a professional voice clone. Takes 2 hours of audio of your voice and it replicates it. I think in the last 2 months, the model they released even catches like the littlest inflections in your voice. So when you laugh, when you have a surprised reaction, it captures all of that. And then from a text prompt, it's your voice to a T. And that was one of the comments we got was like, this is Julia's voice. Well, I don't, even though her hair moves weird, I think it's still Julia. That's her voice. So these two softwares are under HeyGen. I think we're paying $69 a month. And then ElevenLabs, I think we're paying somewhere between 30 to 40. So that you're still under 150 a month, and that's your software for the actual clone done. You can set it up. I have kind of infinite number of training data, but really I just do 20 different takes, and then I have all different expressions, and then we match the clone to that. And my human producer is now the one actually taking the text prompt from my Google Doc, because I still think out everything and I'll use Claude, but I always bring it in a doc, so it's got that human touch. And he takes that doc and then feeds it into the clone inside HeyGen, and then exports it as an MP4, and then layers on all of the different effects. Like if we talk about a study, I want to show that study. If we're quoting somebody that said something in the news, he's pulling that in. So that's still very much human. I've tried the AI edits in this script has one. They're just not, they're not I'm very picky. Like it has to be. If I'm talking about AI news and you're showing that screenshot 20 seconds later when I'm talking about AGI, it doesn't land. So the content has to land, and it has to be humanly produced still in order to land. But really, that's all you need. And that's I think the producer's salary right now, we were paying 2,000 a month. You can get a decent producer, 1,500 to 2,000 a month. So it's really not something that'll break the bank. And the channel pays for itself 4 to 5 times over. So if you can do that, just the minimum, let's say your only minimum is, how do I get this thing to pay for itself times 5? I've done that. And it's not requiring an investment more than the expenses don't exceed the profit. The profit's 5 times more. So that alone is a reason to consider doing this, because then you take yourself out of all of that work. And then your question is, well, what do I do now with my time? And for me, like, I'm actually thinking through better content. I think my content's better than when I humanly film, because I'm not burned out anymore. I'm not filming last minute, late day. My 3-year-old's about to get home, and I'm like, okay, let me get this filming in. That is completely gone.
What does your base prompt look like? Is there something at the bottom that says, like, when you write the script, you are Julia McCoy, this is your like background, this is your history, these are your beliefs? Try to work that in, and then all of that? Or do you just kind of manually sort of add that stuff in, and it's more like the superhuman base model?
So what I've done, it's really, really simple. I've got a Claude project, and in the background of that Claude project is maybe 50,000 words of like my books, my blogs. Just like one time I talked to ChatGPT for an hour. We pulled that as a transcript. That was part of the Claude project. So it like resembles my brain, I would say. That's the Claude project. And then in that project are hundreds of threads where I'm like, okay, today we're going to write a YouTube video on Trump's latest AI act. And then I'll put it all together, and it's pulling from that project knowledge. So it already knows me, how I'm going to write, what I'm going to say about different things. And it stays pretty true to that. And then what I do is I don't let it write the script ever automatically. And this is where I was talking to an expert the other day. They're like, knowledge bases are just, they're always going to hallucinate, come up with things if you prompt them and say, hey, what would you say about this? Because they'll always make up an answer. If the answer is true is another question. So I correct that by making sure I'm actually writing the script against the knowledge base. versus prompting the knowledge base and hoping the knowledge base does a good job. So it's kind of a more human approach because you're still like thinking through every topic. But against that, 50,000 word background, we still have something that's incredibly accurate to how I talk.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because and I've had a lot of the same issues when I was trying to write out certain things. I mean, most of my videos, I don't use any scripts or anything like that. I just sit in front of the camera and just like riff for an hour or two and then cut
I
out.
was going to say, you riff.
And I just, yeah, cut out like all the 10 minutes. I'm just like staring out the window, cut out those parts. And then that's the video. But when I try to write certain stuff for other platforms or stuff like that, I can't get any of the models to write in a certain way. And I've tried a lot of different stuff. I mean, the best way is to give examples and have a certain base. But yeah, we're not at a point where it's going to replicate your voice. We still, as humans, have to write it. I think a lot of people that just do in and out, sort of like they just take the output. That's not going to be the best thing. I feel like you have to refine it. You have to, like you said, human in the loop. You have to be
Yeah.
in there making sure that it's coming out correctly. And it's funny because exactly what you were saying about the editor, that's the one thing where AI, that's one other area where it's like, it's just not there yet where it can edit the videos like a human producer could. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of say, and just another point, HeyGen plus ElevenLabs, again, just excellent combination. Those are the two tools that I use as well. They're the best out there, I feel like. So
Yeah, they
definitely.
are. Yeah.
Um, Wes, can I ask you kind of like a totally off-topic question? Do you feel like you got what you needed from that?
You know, we can go. I
Because
would.
there's a quantum mechanics question I want to ask her at some point.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, that was definitely it. Definitely. Well, the thing is, we definitely don't want to take away from the tutorial that's coming. You said in a couple of weeks, maybe 45 minutes. So I'm gonna sit there and watch that
Oh,
one.
and
So
yeah, and she's
and
got an hour. You only really have an hour, right? Are you about ready to head out?
Yes.
oh, okay,
Yes, that'd
yeah.
be
Let's
great.
get
Okay,
to
so let
the
me just ask
big
really quick.
questions.
Do you believe in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics? Like, do you think there's other Julia McCoys out there?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000. And I'll tell you, I got to see this and actually practice this real time in my health crash, like no joke. They talk about NDEs, near death experiences. I didn't necessarily have that because like my soul never left my body fully. But I was like, I had some states where there was like some in between moments where I was like clinging on to reality. I can't believe this happened. Like I'm still like, what? And in those moments, it's like you really see things clearly, and it's more like I don't know, it's more like a state of feeling it versus seeing it, because the invisible realm is actually infinitely more powerful than the visible realm. And when we start to understand that, that's where I mean, just like it gets really crazy. So in the quantum realm, it's the belief. Newtonian physics says that we can't change things. Outside observers don't impact reality. Quantum physics says that life is so crazy that you can actually have any outcome you want at any point if you just look at it long enough. But you're not looking at it with your actual eyes. What that means is you're looking at something in another realm that hasn't happened yet. So you literally have to believe in it with invisible eyes. Like that's the essence of faith. Faith is what we do not see, but what we believe in, what we're sure of. So that is what like I clung on to, just the belief that in another realm I have healing, I have safety in my body, like these things are going to come back. And I clung on to that even when I didn't see it. And because I believe in an intelligent creator, like nothing's by chance, there is a powerful force behind all of this, a governing force in the order of it. I was able to trust, because if you believe the currency of everything is love, then you know that if you can trust that force, then the outcome is always for your good. And that is infinite peace. There's so much peace in that, especially when you're clinging on to life. And so in those moments where it was like I had trouble breathing, oxygen was up for debate. And I had nothing but my belief. There's another reality out there. I'm going to hold on to that reality, even when I don't see it, and trust and believe and pray and meditate that that will come into my reality. And I saw that happen. I saw it happen several times. And there were times where I experienced part of that life force. And it's really, I don't think there's words in any language you can use to like describe it when you're at that point where the veil is so thin.
Yeah.
But like it's so real. It's realer than the world we're in.
Dude.
And quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum theory, it's all so true. And the founders of these different ways to like see the world, quantum mechanics, they said that if you say you understand quantum physics, that means you haven't even started yet. The only way you can understand it is to believe and see that life is so erratic, it cannot be understood. Because, wait a minute, I can change my reality just by observing it in another realm? Like, these are things we are not taught because there's profit to be made when our minds are controlled and when we don't believe in that additional reality. So, yeah, many worlds, all of it's just, it's so
Yeah,
true.
it's gonna
But I,
be like one thing I know about AI is we're gonna have like answers to dark matter and like small and big. Why is it like on the quantum mechanics level so relative? And like, yeah, are the fundamental physics of the universe evolving over time? And the graviton seems like it's something we're gonna be able to like actually figure out at some point with the right experiments, which AI can probably help us build. And if everything is exponential, that could not be thousands of years away. That could be like 10 years or 15 or 20 because the difference between 20 and 21 years from now will be such a huge jump in knowledge. Like maybe that's when it gets solved, you know? So it's going to
yes,
be like wild what we learn about ourselves and the universe. And I still
it
sometimes even
is.
wonder if aliens are already out there. We just can't detect them, but maybe we'll have some sort of new mechanism for that. So I don't know.
Yes,
It's
it's
just fun
gonna
to
get
think about.
crazy. Buckle in.
All right. Anyways, thanks, Wes. Sorry to throw that in there at the end.
Oh no, this is incredible. I'm glad you
That's where it
I'm
goes
glad you
sometimes.
asked that. That's a great addition. Yeah, and that's something that I've been thinking quite a bit about. And more guests talking about AI. That's what they're looking forward, like unlocking some of the sort of mysteries of the universe. Because obviously, not obviously, but this seems like there's a lot more that we don't understand about the universe, and it's a lot stranger than I think we've ever imagined. So
It
maybe
Yes.
is.
maybe we'll see a little bit of we'll lift the veil into within our lifetimes and see a little bit of that. So
So,
with that,
Julia, what's
yes.
the yeah? Tell us all about what anything like kind of do the closing now, but labs. You could talk about that. Your YouTube channel. Anything else you're working on? Books that are upcoming. What's going on in just your life? What do you
Yes.
want people to know about?
Yeah. Well, if you stay tuned to the channel, I will be talking more about the economics of this because I think that we've got to be proactive, not reactive as a society to really make the most of this. So that's something I'll be talking more about. Anything I do there is pretty much partnered with Dave because he has studied this like nobody else. The poor man needs to sleep sometimes.
I don't know.
But it is really amazing the knowledge he's put together and how all this could work. So that's who I partner with for the knowledge there. We're going to do books. We're going to do a whole economics. I don't even want to call it business. It's going to be more like a foundation where we can, our goal is to really help teach this and get people involved and get government entities involved and economists, et cetera, et cetera. And then beyond that, my day to day is just helping people, work professionals, people, um, enter the AI age as a first mover. And we do that through the labs at First Movers. So that is a lot of fun. My clone is actually filming all my new tutorials. We get really good feedback. And it's like, okay, we had this marketing success. This was a hit on LinkedIn, or this email had this CTR. Let's break down how we did it. And the clone will do that and then teach that in the labs. So if you're in the labs, you'll see a lot of my clone teaching. And it's really, really good stuff. And we have probably 60 courses in there by now. The goal is like to take you from beginner to advanced. So no matter what area you're in, level you're in, you jump in, you have something immediately that helps you take your knowledge and translate it into real world. Okay, how do I actually use this? How do I make money? How do I think about what's coming? How do I get ready? So that's the whole goal of the labs, like kind of decentralizing AI skills.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely. And we'll put the link to the labs and firstmovers.ai and the YouTube channel as well. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm actually going to check it out myself because that's one of the things that I think more and more people need to learn about. And hopefully we can maybe even promote it here on this channel, on my channel.
Ooh,
Because I'm
that'd be
not
cool.
seeing, yeah, I'm not seeing enough of that sort of education emerging. There's attempts
Yes.
here and there, but I feel like not enough. We're still not at a point where I know of one place that people can go to and say, okay, if you want to get started, you want to jump in, like this is it. So I'm going to check this place out and hopefully, and I'm sure you're adding content all the time. And
All the time.
the goal is to eventually be a one-stop shop for people looking to get into, take advantage of AI.
Yes. And we have full-time integrators on staff. So it's not like it's just, even though, it is Dr. McCoy in there a lot, which is, of course, the name of my clone, but we have full-time integrators where we're actually, the other side of the business is integrations, where we get inside businesses and we build agentic workflows. So that's not me, that's my team. And we have a really great integrator that teaches, we have a class 2 hours a week that he teaches in the labs, and then he's filming a lot of courses. So it's content you likely won't find if someone is like just a hobbyist or exploring these things. Because one of the problems we found in a lot of tutorials, because we were joining communities, was you'd get to the end of it, you'd have a whole agentic workflow, and then you realized you couldn't use it. Like you couldn't hit publish or the thing broke. And when you're in a business setting and you're selling these integrations, they got to work. So when we sell it, we actually get to see what actually works. And that's also a major differentiator for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking
That's
forward to
great.
it. It's very much needed. So thank you so much for being here. This has been an incredible discussion. And I wish we had more time. If you ever have another hour to spend with us, you're always welcome. We'd love to pick your brain some more. But yeah, for the time that we had, thank you so much for being with us today.
This was so
Yep.
fun. Well,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having me. This is my first chat, since everything went down. So I was like, this is a big deal. Like I plan my day
Yeah.
around it. And it's so much fun to talk to humans.
Yeah. So glad when I text you and it was like the real you. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not. I got her. I think it's gonna be great.